John, today I would like to make the show all about me.
Well, that sounds selfish, Sean.
No, not selfish. My exceptional qualities should be the focus, and the audience should be fully apprised of my greatness to the exclusion of all other topics.
I think you just defined the word selfish.
Okay. But is being selfish actually bad?
That depends. Are you asking philosophically, or did you just eat the last piece of pizza?
Well, I'm asking because I did eat the last slice of pizza and I felt justified in doing it.
Well, that means your brain is just doing its job then.
Oh, well, good. My brain seems very comfortable looking out for number one.
Yeah, of course it is. If your brain doesn't work to keep you alive, comfortable, and convinced you're right, that you're number one, then who will?
So when I say I'm not selfish, I'm just taking care of myself. That my brain is basically acting as my lawyer.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a very aggressive lawyer, too.
That explains so much of my life.
Let's start the show.
Welcome back to John Teaches Sean About His Brain. Today, we're talking about selfishness, why it's one of the first things we're taught not to be, and yet something our brains are remarkably good at justifying when we are. We'll break down when selfishness is actually healthy, when it quietly causes problems, and how your brain decides the difference long before you do. From setting boundaries to making split-second decisions under stress, selfishness often shows up wearing the disguise of self-care, confidence, or even just doing what makes sense. We're going to explore why your brain is wired to put you first, and how that wiring helps humans survive, and why it sometimes gets us in trouble in modern life. John and I will discuss what's happening neurologically when we feel justified, defensive, or protective. By the end of this conversation, the goal isn't to label yourself as selfish or selfless, but to better understand what your brain is trying to protect and how a little awareness can change the way you show up at work, at home, and in high pressure moments. Welcome, John. It's good to see you.
It is great seeing you.
Okay.
I see you're wearing a Seattle sweatshirt. It's a
I
Mariner,
am.
though.
It's Mariners, not Seahawks. And yes,
You're ready
today,
for spring training, right?
that's it. I'm going to Peoria. Yeah. I'm
Has
not
nothing
going
to do with football.
No, not at all. Not the game that was played yesterday.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Great game.
Seahawks are going to the Super Bowl, but I just don't like. I still have a bad feeling or a bad taste in my mouth about the last Super Bowl with the Seahawks and the Patriots, because I know for the next 2 weeks it's all everyone's going to be talking about.
Just run the ball.
Oh, see, here we go. There it is. There it is.
No, you're gonna feel better after this one. I think you're gonna win this one.
I'm just glad that the Seahawks made it to the Super Bowl, to be honest.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm not being fake when I'm like, I just hope they play well. But, so yeah, I was interested in talking about the concept of selfishness, right? Like, because I said it in the intro there is from, I don't know, from a very young age. We're taught to share. We're taught to, and we use the word selfish a lot as a negative. Don't be selfish. Don't make it all about you. All those things. But I was thinking about. Let me start with this because I was about to spin out of control. Let me just keep it focused on why it is that we put ourselves first.
So, and that was my prompt, right?
I'm curious what you. I mean, again, like on the surface, I go, it makes sense why my brain would organize it that I'm number one, but I think there's more to it than I am giving it.
Yeah, that's we've talked about the on channel, which is conscious awareness, and the back channel, which is non-conscious processing, and almost everything that goes on in your brain happens in your non-conscious brain. And that's the part of the brain. It not only keeps you alive by regulating heart rate and respiration and all of those things, and like hunger and things to keep you eating and moving and living. But it also prioritizes you over everyone else and everything else because, what's the survival value in putting yourself last place? So the survival side of this is I've got to be sure that I take care of myself above everyone else. But then there's also, we're not just back channel animals. We have an on channel that we can consciously think through things. So that's where teaching comes in to say to kids, no, you've got to share your toy, because kids are like a really kind of raw example of what the back channel is. They throw fits, they cry, they mess themselves, they want everything. That's kind of the back channel before it's trained, before it's matured. And so telling kids you have to share, and you have to share your toy with this other kid, is teaching them that, yes, and it's not teaching them in these terms where they have to understand this, but it's like, yes, you have these drives to just watch out for yourself, but we share a community and you have to watch out for other people as well. And so as you start learning that actually is training the back channel as well, to say, I have to consider other people in my community, not just myself. And then there's also a drive when you become a parent to prioritize your offspring over you. And that's a drive in the back channel. And most people, I mean, it's rare that a parent doesn't have that drive. And so then you're putting your child even ahead of your needs a lot of times without even having to try to, because that's just
Yeah.
kind of wired into your DNA. But then it's just you and your family, and that's it.
Hmm.
And so teaching kids they have to share, and then, as adults, thinking through how we should act towards people in our community, how we should treat other people. Those are choices that we have to make. And as we practice those choices, that slowly starts to also train our back channel in the kind of person we should be, if that
It
makes sense, any of that.
that makes a lot of sense. But you just, when you brought up um, something so key to this discussion that I overlooked, parenting, right? So like I could be, and I probably am, just the most selfish human being, right? Coming into it. And I'm number one, I put myself first, but then all of a sudden there's a child introduced, my child. Uh, and so then I start putting the needs of the child ahead of my own. And like you said, I just didn't think about it. It makes sense that my wiring is I'm number one so that I can survive. Put me first so I can make it so that I can have children. I got to make it long enough to have
Yeah,
kids.
to have children.
But then as soon as then a child is introduced, then I do kind of remember. And I don't think it was, like you said, the on channel process of like, oh, there's a child. Now I can't be selfish. I have to put the child ahead. It
Hmm.
was just a feeling of like, oh, I can't do that. I can't go do that thing I want to go do because I have to put the needs of a child ahead of my own. And again, not a thing I sat down and thought about. It was a drive.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about genes that give you your drive to survive, because like you said, you have to stay alive long enough to procreate and to pass those
Hmm.
genes on. Now
Yeah.
that you pass them on, uh, now the drive becomes, I want to be sure that my offspring passes those on as well. So I'm protecting them so that they have a chance to pass those on, because it's not just at my next generation, it's for generations to come. And if you know somebody, and this is kind of the interesting part, if you know somebody that you would classify as really selfish, like always putting themselves first, and they have kids, that translates over to them making sure that their kids get put ahead of other people's kids. And so these
Oh.
are the parents that are yelling at the coach for not playing their kid, or all the different behaviors, the bad behaviors that parents can have
Hmm.
around their kids, and how they treat even other kids, like yelling at other kids because you might have mistreated my kid. I'm going to yell at you. Like, why are you getting involved? Let the kids work that out. But a lot
Yeah.
of parents can become really aggressive because of that kind of that feeling, that back channel urge and drive to protect their kids, just like they would do for them. The ones that, getting fist fights for themselves are ready to get in fist fights for their kids. And those who are
Yeah.
maybe not quite as, I'm going to be more modest, not put myself forward. They're more modest with putting their kids forward as well.
Yeah, I was so a couple of different things that you're bringing up here is, already we're 10 minutes in, but this is so satisfying for me, but, because this is what I'm curious
We
about,
can
right?
stop now if you want.
Okay, show's over, folks. No,
No,
no, no, no, but, I wasn't even intending to talk this much about parenting, but this is so I know some people, and this is, again, because we talk in generalities because we all have similar brains, but we're all so different, right? And that they are, super selfish just super selfish. It's me, me, me,
hmm
me, me.
hmm
The cold open is always supposed to be like a joke, but they'll take the last piece of pizza and not
yeah,
think about anybody,
yeah,
right? But then those people have children, and I've seen this go both ways. So I'm just saying, like, again, I'm speaking in generalities, but that doesn't change anything for them. They're still
yeah.
super selfish.
Hmm
They're still going to go do the things that they want to do.
hmm
And so what I'm kind of branching off into is then their partner in this, whoever that may be, in raising the child. If there's a couple, then the partner kind of is left to pick up I mean, they're the ones that are doing everything. Because and you know what, I'm going to be a jerk here and just say it's mostly the guys who are selfish, right? So they want to go golfing still. They still want to go, do the stuff they were doing before. Super selfish.
Yeah.
I think that's more rare. It happens quite a bit, but on the flip side, what you just said is what I didn't recognize, is that, okay, super selfish guy or couple, and then they have a child, and then it's not about going to play golf or going to do all the fun things you want to do. Now it's, I'm going to actually kind of like put that on the child. Is my child's going to be number one. They're
hmm
going to start a catcher, and if they
hmm
don't, I'm going to throw a fit, and they get the last piece of pizza, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't think transference is the right word, but you just now put all of that as, I was number one, and now this child is number one in the world.
Yeah,
Not
and
just
we're going to start training them to be a catcher at 18 months. We're going to get them the
yeah.
mitt, make them sit down and go. Yeah, and so you're right. There, people that are kind of uber selfish are still selfish even when they have kids, and
Oh,
they take stuff from their kids, and they won't let their kids win, and they won't let it's always me, me, me. Like you're playing a game of ping pong, or you're playing a game of sorry or whatever. And it's like I got to win every time, and then their excuse is, no, they got to learn how to lose. And so, I'm not going to favor them. The world is hard. I'm going to raise them hard, and that kind of stuff. And it's like that's not helping the child, but they have kind of a selfish drive about them. Not everybody who says that, I should qualify this, is selfish for saying, some people feel that way because they do know the world's hard, and they don't want their kids to get eaten alive when they leave the house, so to speak. So I'm not saying it's always selfish, but
yeah.
people who are selfish will use excuses like that. And but then for those who are kind of self-aware and realize I can't just be I've got to also protect my kids, then that gets transferred over to where now their kid has to be number one. They're, like you said, the kid has to get the last slice of pizza and all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And if the child doesn't get the last slice of pizza, then I'm going to talk to another parent. Like, what's wrong with your
Yeah.
kid? You know, super rude.
Yeah,
Uh,
and
but
I think that selfishness is becoming easier. It's easier to be selfish now. I think we're, as a society, we're kind of helping people with selfishness. And it's just kind of a feeling that I've had. Well, it's not just a feeling. I know there's people that have written about this and talked about this, so I'm not the first one to think about it, but it's just the feeling I have about kind of how society is going right now, and a lot of it has to go is kind of around therapy. And I'm a psychologist, but not that kind of psychologist. I'm not a clinical psychologist,
mhm.
but in clinical psychology, and in like, well, I think I shouldn't even use clinical psychology. It's more, I think, self-help books and things like that, where you tell people you're good enough, and take care of yourself. It's all about self-care. Take care of yourself first. If you don't, who will? And it's kind of that thing of almost like reversing to be selfish. Like, I need to just take care of me versus we've got a community to take care of. And so I think there's a lot of things kind of happening all at once, kind of almost like a zeitgeist, where you have the whole social order is coming together at the same time on a certain topic. And it seems like this might be one of those topics, is
Hmm.
selfishness and self-care. It's kind of like psychological well-being is one of the greater goods. Emotional discomfort is bad. Make sure you're not emotionally uncomfortable. Don't, put boundaries up. People shouldn't be able to cross your boundaries, and those types of things. And that
Yeah.
kind of leads to this whole thing about it's just me, me, me. And I don't think that's good for our society.
Huh. So you brought up self-help books, and it got me kind of just scrolling mentally through. So there's a couple of things. You and I have talked at length on this show many times about social media,
Hmm.
attention spans, right? Like, and so when somebody writes a self-help book or does a TED talk, and they can give us something we can grab onto, meaning short phrases that, sound cool or whatever. Because I'll be honest. I'm brutally honest about myself on this show. Um, um, I think I brought this up to you, but Mel Robbins, she's a writer, and
Hmm.
she wrote this self-help book. And then the other thing, it's funny about you and I, because every time I bring up stoicism, I see a look in your eyes. So we just don't talk about it. But
That's not
but
true.
I know that part's a joke. But because I do try to follow modern day stoicism to some degree, I heard Mel Robbins interviewed,
Hmm.
and she was a great interview. She's really funny and great, but she came up with this catchphrase, or the I don't want to say catchphrase, but let them.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
catchphrase.
is that a catchphrase
I think so. Yeah.
okay. So let them. And I think a lot of people grabbed onto that because, again, it's short, it's easy. I can, and and the way that she explained it, now I didn't read the book. Sorry, Mel, if
Yeah,
you're
she wrote a
listening.
book called Let Them, right?
Let them, right?
Hmm.
I didn't read the book, but I heard her describe it. I looked it up and I was like, this feels intuitively, this feels really close to stoicism.
Hmm.
I was wrong. It's not. But um, uh, from I think what you're saying about the way that psychoanalysis, like psychologists are
Hmm.
coaching people,
Hmm.
and self-help books like this has people kind of putting themselves first.
Hmm.
And to some degree, I think that, let me go back. If you're in a toxic relationship with somebody, you're in an abusive relation, you're in some relationship, I can see the merit in
Hmm.
going, I need to put up boundaries. I need to
Yeah.
maybe even disconnect from this person, not be around this person or whatever. But when you talked about community and social, I'm always thinking about how we interact with others,
Hmm.
right? And putting myself first always and putting up boundaries doesn't seem like I'm going to, from a communal standpoint, be living the life I want to lead. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. Yes.
So
Yeah.
the let them thing grabbed me. I'm
Hmm.
I'm I'm being honest, and I talked about it with my friends and family, like, hey, there's this thing for a couple of weeks, and then I stopped talking about it
Hmm.
because it is, to me, way too. I don't want to say narrow, but go ahead.
Well, I no, you're on the right track. So
Am
those
I?
feelings, yeah, and I think that part of this is when you're thinking through different things, you'll get a feeling that something's off about it and you're not sure what, and that's your back channel matching patterns. And so when you're talking about stoicism, and I don't know that much about stoicism, so you'll have to help me. But I know it's like, don't try to control other people. Like,
Hmm.
don't get into that. But there's also a part of it that I think around duty. You have duties to, a duty and kind of a moral obligate. There's the moral obligation side of it,
Yes.
and that's where I think it's different. And that's, I think, where the pattern isn't matching. Like the let them part of it's like, yeah, that fits. So it's like, just in case the listeners haven't heard much about the book, and I have not read it either, but I read the back cover, if that counts for anything.
For this discussion, I think it counts.
Okay. Well, and we talk now, this is 2 weeks in a row, because last week I was talking about something similar, the, Empathy is a Sin and Toxic Empathy, and I hadn't read those
Yeah.
books either.
No, no,
So I'm
no. But
talking about things I haven't read, but that kind of fits into this as well. And so the way I understand it is that it's about how other people are, how you're interacting with other people, and rather than getting into an argument with them to try to convince them of your way, if they believe something differently, just let them.
mhm,
And then it goes on to others, like if you text somebody and they don't text back, let them. That, you can't control that behavior. If somebody acts in a certain way, just let them. So it's kind of like releasing responsibility, but there's the so that all sounds good, but then there's the other part of, as you start doing that and training your brain, that's the new filter, that's the new schema that everything starts to filter through. And now you start, kind of, let them becomes your answer to almost anything and everything. And that's where it can be, because then it doesn't have the duty, because I don't have any duties. It's just to
right.
me. If there's
Mhm.
something else, just let them do whatever, and let them. And that also really undermines empathy and compassion and those types of things, because I don't have time to be empathetic or compassionate, because they're doing what they're doing. Just let them.
Yeah.
I've got to watch out for me. And I think that's where it can be troublesome.
Yeah, I think that like anything good, or just like anything, we can uh, we can have too much of it, and it can
Hmm.
become bad. In other words, like if you follow, just let them. The way you just described it
Hmm.
is to kind of cut down on your um, I don't know, discomfort. Not even discomfort, just um, it's rumination, right? Like worry,
Hmm.
like you said. I text somebody and they don't text back. And then I start getting like stressed out emotionally, like, are they mad at me? Did I do something? Or I might even get resentful
Hmm.
to towards them. Like every time that you text me, I text you back. And why didn't you text me back? These are all the things that I think lead to anxiety and stress and all that. So just at that level, let them. I love it. Okay, great.
Hmm.
But to your point, 2 points. The first one is Stoicism does have a more I would call it a more rounded operating system for life instead of just a single tactic. Ethics, logic, purpose, and then you said moral, like a moral duty, all that stuff. That's number one. But number two, I started thinking about uh, training your. This is the stuff I don't think about, John, until we talk about it is I'm training my brain, the my non-conscious brain.
Hmm.
So I'm not saying logically, here's what we're going to do. I am just feeding that machine back there that just runs on its own, basically.
Hmm.
And what I'm telling it is I'm the most important thing here.
Hmm.
I'm going to take care of me. I'm
Yeah.
important. And if it goes too far, and this is maybe not sound like one, but it's a question. But when you brought up empathy and compassion, I feel like that ability might get dulled a little bit because I can't think about what other people are going through or what they're feeling because I got to think about me.
Hmm.
I mean, is that oversimplifying how this works?
No, it's not oversimplifying the back channel, because the back channel doesn't learn by you logically saying what the rules are. It learns by what you're actually doing. So if you don't just say let them, you start having that's your actions towards other people, and that's what it learns by. And then it says, well, this is the rule now, so we've got to filter everything through it. And I told you last week that I was picking back up TikTok and
Yeah.
Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah.
And the first, so the listeners, when you hear this podcast, there will already be kind of the first lesson. I'm doing the kind of embedded themes thing for your social brain, embedded themes lessons for your social brain to use it kind of like we're using it in preflex. And the first lesson is about not answering a text, which is why that came to mind. But bringing it up when you're saying just let them, this gives, like, the lesson gives the alternative to that. It's not so if you worry like, oh, are they mad at me? You have all these things in rumination, like you said, those types of things aren't healthy.
Right.
But instead of just saying let them, it's like, okay, I'm going to provide them an excuse because I know that I get busy. I'm the number one, I'm the main character of my movie, but
Mm-hmm.
they're just a role player. They're the number one character, the main character of their movie, and I'm just a role player. So I have to realize that. And then it's just, I'll think of an excuse like maybe they got busy. I wonder what's going on in their life right now that they're so busy. I hope everything's okay. Because if you frame it like that, you're still caring about them, but you are in a sense just saying, let them not respond to me right now. It's okay. I can let them not
Yeah.
respond, but I'm still showing caring. And there's some psychological benefits to saying let them. Like you said, if you're in an abusive relationship or something like that, and your emotional, your cognitive and emotional resources are just drained by this other person, that's not healthy. So pushing back by saying just let them be that way and they're not going to drain from me, just let them, that can be healthy. And then like rumination and all of those types of things.
Yeah.
But those, in those cases, yes, do that. But for, by and large, for most of the time, that's not the best way to go. And I think if Mel Robbins would have written her book in the 1980s, maybe 1970s, maybe it would have been a little bit more powerful when people were more involved in everything you're doing. But or maybe people on the East Coast should read it, because I know on the East Coast, the experiences I've had there, people get very involved with other people's lives.
Yeah.
Like my wife and I were shopping for some shoes in Pennsylvania, and we were kind of talking to ourselves, and I said, what about this one? And there was a lady sitting behind us a little ways trying one on. She said, I wouldn't get that one. I've tried, she just gets all involved. And it's just like, let us pick out our shoes instead
Yeah.
of let them.
Yeah.
So I know that there's times, but that should not be your catchphrase for life, because that I
Yeah.
think leads to more of a selfish life. It's just not good in the long run. It's not healthy for a society. I know that. It might be healthy for that one person, but if we're
Right.
trying to be part of a larger society, it's not healthy at all.
So, and I'm pretty sure that when I heard Mel Robbins, this podcast is not about Mel Robbins. I didn't mean to do this. I wanted to talk about why we're selfish and why our brain does it. But I think I heard her say this, so I want to give her credit. But for me, I don't follow the let them philosophy anyway. I mean, I try to follow stoicism, but there is a little bit of a through line of the second part of that is let them and then let me. And so
Okay.
let them not respond to my text. They might be busy, all those things. And then let me do with that information what I need to do with it. Meaning I'm not going to be, my first thought shouldn't be, did I do something wrong? Or are they mad at me?
Mm-hmm.
And because if that turns out to be the case, then I'll deal with that. I'll apologize or we'll cover that. But me sitting here worrying about that is going to do nothing
Mm-hmm.
until I get the text back. Number two, again, the resentment or the rumination, whatever those things are, those are all the let me things that I'm not going to do. I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
engage in that. So that's back to like
That's
kind of
good.
the
Yeah.
idea of worry about what you can control. And then what you can control, you should be living your values, the way you should be doing those things in accordance with the way that you want to be in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, like I've spent so much of my life trying to control other people, whether it's driving, and, yelling at people in traffic or, just behavior of like arguing with people or trying to convince people that I'm right or do it this
Mm-hmm.
way. And I mean, I think in old man Sean, I think has come upon the realization is that that's fallacy. Like you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have conversations with people, and maybe when they hear why I think the way that I think or that I do the things that I do, maybe they walk away like, oh, that gives me a different way of looking at it. But not me going, no, you're crazy. You're wrong. Here's why you're wrong. And here's why I'm right. And that's the part that is just such an emotional drain on me,
Mhm.
and I think a complete and utter waste of time. So the let them let me part, I do, you know, kind of, I guess I'm coming back around to maybe that's not so bad. Maybe that's
Yeah,
just
this is why I should read a book before I talk about it. So because I'm sure that I'm not representing it correctly because I haven't read it, but I think the philosophy of let them is more prevalent, even if the book says, but there's a second step to it. I think a lot of people stop at the first step,
yeah.
and that's more prevalent now. And I just realized something, that when I said, maybe it'd be helpful for people on the East Coast because they seem to be more involved. That's counter to what I was just saying about a community and helping people in the community. Because that lady helping us with shoes was trying to help us
Trying to help.
avoid
Yeah.
a bad shoe that she's had a bad experience with. So I think all of this also comes down to our kind of our Western philosophy of individualism and I'm enough. I'm all I need, because I hear that too a lot. Like, I'm enough. They'll say, you're enough. Like, that's the same people will say to each other, you're enough. And it's a way to make you feel better. And really, we aren't enough by ourselves. And it takes more. It takes a community. If you're religious, it takes, whatever you're believing in there. It takes more than just, I'm going to stand on my own. And Western culture is very strong into individualism. I'm going to pull myself up by my own bootstraps. If I ask for help or try to make a connection, that shows weakness, and I lose respect from people for that. I have to do everything on my own.
Yeah.
And Eastern culture is the exact opposite. And I was a colleague of a uh, cultural psychologist. I don't remember Vinay's title exactly, but Vinay was one of my colleagues, and he was looking into cultural psychology. And he was from Japan. He's Indian descent, from India, but grew up in Japan and then
Mm.
came to the US and living and teaching here. I think he's at Gonzaga right now, or was. But I met him in Minnesota, and I was talking to him about his research, and it was fascinating because like, one example is, if you show a picture of a child crying, sitting on the floor crying, and then you show a picture of several adults behind that child, their facial expressions will give you an idea of whether they're like the Eastern or Western
Hmm.
kind of thought. And it's that in Western thought, the adults will be looking at the child, or your thought is like, what's wrong with that child? And in Eastern thought, it's like, I should say this, they look at where the eyes go. When you say something about the child, they look at the child, see it crying, and then they look at the eyes of the adults around them in the kind of Eastern tradition, to see what everybody else's facial expressions are, because that tells whether the child is distressed or not. If none of the adults are distressed, then it doesn't matter that the child's crying, because as a group, everything seems to be okay. But Western viewers who look at that from the US and Europe, they look at the child and they spend almost all their time looking at the child like, what's wrong? This child is distressed. Why isn't somebody helping this child? Because it's more about individualism, and that's an individual that needs to be taken care of, rather than that's one member of a larger group. And so it's just fascinating how
That's
even
interesting.
perceptually,
Yeah.
and pronouns are very rarely used in writing in Eastern cultures, because it's not I and we, it's us and them, rather than, I, me type of thing. So yeah, it's really fascinating how the cultures are so different. So here I am from a Western point of view, even pulling further away from the East Coast, where they're still trying to have a little bit of community. And I'm even
Yeah.
saying, no, that don't even get involved in my conversation. So I realized I went too far the other direction.
No, that's interesting because you're right. Well, let me go back. Again, I have two things, but the first one is that like you're good enough, the daily affirmation or whatever you want to
Hmm.
call it.
Yeah.
But that's about self-worth, right? I mean, that's the thing that you're trying to do is get me to understand that I'm better than I think I am. I'm okay.
Hmm.
because I'm down on myself. I don't feel good about myself, all that. But
You're
that
enough.
I'm enough. But again, that being said enough to my brain,
Mhm.
that's my filter. I'm gonna filter information through that down the road.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to correct all the sayings that we have in our culture right now, but,
Well, words
you know,
matter.
words matter, and so it could be, "Hey, I'm here to help," "We're here to help," or you have a supportive group, you have a strong network. You've got people who care about you, "We're here to help," rather than "You're enough," type of thing. And I know and this is the thing, sayings like that, catchphrases and sayings can have the best of intentions behind them. So I'm
Right,
not trying to
right.
evaluate the intentions behind it. I'm just saying for your brain over and over to start hearing that, what your back channel will start using as filters will, it's you've got in your brain is processing everything from outside of you and your brain, and then is processing things that are already inside the brain. So this new
Mhm.
information that's coming from the outside gets filtered through all of the things that is already inside the brain. And that then it becomes the filter is just always getting adjusted and tweaked little by little. So all of your experiences are tweaking your filters on how you see the world. And hearing sayings like that and thinking along those lines over and over and over starts changing that filter to where now information, even if it's for best intentions, even if it's for the wanting the best for somebody else and trying to help them the most, if you're telling them some of these things and they're hearing it over and over, that's going to start adjusting their or can start adjusting their filters. It depends
Mm.
on if they listen to you or not. But if
Right,
they
right,
if
right,
they're
right.
listening to you and they're starting to try to think that way, that's going to change their filtering system. And I think we just have evidence of, it seems like empathy is lower in this. It's probably not, because I've been seeing a
Mm,
lot of very empathetic people, some even giving their lives based on that, of caring for
yeah,
others and wanting, so I shouldn't say, it just seems like that, when you're reading books about toxic empathy and then, these other things, and again, maybe there's some good points in that book as well, but I think you have to be really careful because especially a catchphrase, somebody hears it and tags their own meaning onto it. So,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
that's what we do,
Mhm.
and that's what I did, admittedly,
Mhm.
to some degree. But
Yeah, me too.
when I do believe that in the Western culture we are more individuals. We've
Mhm.
been pushed that way, but I was just sitting here thinking about. I'm wearing a Seattle Mariners sweatshirt. We were just talking about the Seahawks, um, and when I was thinking about sports fanaticism, and all that. It's my team, it's us. And I'm like, you weren't on the field, stop it. But the need to be we still have a drive to be a part of a group,
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
whether it's political, because that is a huge part of what's driving my, not for speaking for John or the podcast, just my opinion, but why we're so divided in this country is because of that thing
Mhm.
is that that's not the only reason, but I'm saying I want to identify with a group and I don't want to be kicked out of the group. We've discussed all this, but whether it's a sports team, whether it's a religion, whether it's my political affiliation, like go down the line, there are all these groups that we have like a biological drive to be a part of a group,
Yes, that's right.
and the things that we will do or not do to stay in the group.
Mhm.
And so where I'm going with this is my kind of follow-up question is I'm trying to put together, like, if I'm a selfish person, but I think I still have a drive to be a part of a group, and I don't want to be kicked out of that group. Can you see the
Mhm.
conflict with,
Yeah.
within myself of I'm number one, I'm first, but I still have this drive to be a part of this group.
Yeah, and then that group's gonna be number 1, and that group's gonna be first. So, but I think it's
Oh,
also,
oh,
selfishness and all is on a scale. So you
yeah.
still have to, we still live in society. And so there's still things we attach ourselves to, even selfish people, even really selfish, like uber selfish people will attach themselves to groups and things like that. Um,
But hang on, go back to what you just said because that was big. That was big for me You just said my selfishness now kind of becomes about the group.
Yeah, and I think like if your group, like it needs to be number one as well, and if it's not, that's very distressing when it's not
Yeah.
also number one. And that's just kind of like the same. If we're not number one, that's very distressing. So yeah, instead of just saying, hey, I'm part of this group, and I know that there's are 53 actual members of that group that have the pads on, plus all the
Mm-hmm.
coaching staff and the support staff and all of that.
Right. Right.
So I know that's the group that, and I can enjoy watching them, but they have to win. I'm speaking to myself now. I'm an avid
Oh,
Chiefs fan,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
if they aren't doing good, can get so frustrated, and I it's hard to detach yourself from a group when you're a fan, a sports fan. It's hard to detach yourself from that team, but really, it's not like you said. It's not you out there. It's not me out there playing. It's these other guys, and whatever they do, they do. But yet, we can tie ourselves so tightly to that.
But so, oh, Sean, because again, I was, talking about people who were so tied to a team that it affects their life.
Mm-hmm.
And, but what you're
I don't
saying,
think that that's necessarily related. Like I don't think you can relate. I'm hoping you can't relate fanaticism for a team with selfishness. I don't think that those relate. Like if somebody's says I'm a fan of my team, but it doesn't really bother me if they win or lose, I don't think that means they're not selfish. And somebody who it really affects are selfish. I don't think those are tied together.
yeah, no,
I'm
no, no.
just I'm
Yeah,
just saying that you can also say, but my team has to be number one as
that's,
well. Yeah.
but that's where I was going is I'm not saying everybody who is fanatical about a team is selfish.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to formulate in my brain, I think I have the ingredients. I'm just trying to make the recipe work here. But that I'm looking at my own instincts and drives, and
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a selfish person. I'm number one, and then I become a part of a group, and that group is fans of the Seahawks. Let's just
Mm-hmm.
call it that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so as soon as I become part of that group, I'm so selfish. Not only do I have to be number one, but my team has to be number one. The team that I'm rooting for, not the team I'm on. But
Yeah. Yeah.
when I'm rooting for that team, um, like again, them winning is my group. My group is winning. Like the thing that I'm tied to is being successful, and somehow that relates back. That do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel better when my team wins.
But why? Why do you feel better when your team wins?
It,
Because I do
ju-
too. But I'm
yeah.
saying why? Why
Yeah.
do I?
It's our social brain. It's that we have a longing to be part of a group, and then you
Mm-hmm.
can attach yourself to a group, and then you're winning. And some people uh, change teams and cheer for the teams that are winning, and then
Oh,
some
oh, yeah.
stick it
Mhm.
out. Like I did as a Chiefs fan for. Well, let's see. I don't know. I wasn't old enough to remember when they won their first Super Bowl, and then like in 1970, yeah, 1970, I think. And so then I had all those years of drought growing up in my
Right.
high school years and college years, and when I was first married, and just terrible every year. I went through, a 2-14 season and all of those things. And then when they win, I'm really excited. But some people don't want to go through the droughts, so
Mhm.
they're fans of whatever team is winning for you know that's really good for a couple of years. Then they'll change to another team. But it's still most people is just to be a part of a group.
Yeah. And again, I'm not saying that I know that what I wanted to talk about on this episode was selfishness, but in a
Hmm.
great way, we've been all over the board
Yeah.
with a lot of different things. I'm in no way saying that someone who roots for their team, even says my team, all of the things I just said, I'm not saying that's a super selfish person. What I was trying to correlate there is if it was a selfish person. So separate the
Hmm.
two, right? I'm
Hmm.
not saying a fanatic for a team is a selfish person, because I think I like
You.
I've said a million times, words matter. I don't want to have anybody construed misconstrue what I'm saying to be, oh, if you love the Seahawks, you're selfish. That's not what I'm saying.
You're talking about a selfish person who also happens to be a fanatic.
Yes, that's what I'm talking
Okay.
about. So again, not every sports fan is selfish. Not by a long shot. What I'm saying is if we can separate that and go, let's take a person who is selfish,
Mm-hmm.
right? And because I want to talk about their brain and their wiring. Is I'm super selfish. I'm number one. And then when I become part of a group, that group has to be number one. And that's where I was going with the, like, if they are a selfish person and then they become a fan of, name it, a team, or, I would even argue this person plays beer league softball. I don't know that there's a difference, right? They're selfish. They're on a team. They're going to be number one. That's just how this is going to go. And so again, I want to double down and say, if anybody if you mistook what I was saying, I'm a Seahawks fan. I'm a Mariners fan. I'm part of that group. I don't consider myself to be super selfish. So I'm saying, when you do find somebody selfish, and anybody listening to this, I think you have a picture of somebody in your head right now.
Yeah,
I think you do. We all know somebody who it's just like, how are you operating with this mentality of just like me first? I'm going to be first in line. That's mine. I'm going to take the last slice of pizza, you name it. So again, if you didn't before, everybody right now has a picture in their head.
Yeah.
And if you don't, it might be you. That's a joke. But again, it makes sense going all the way back to the beginning. It makes sense why we're wired that way. We have to put ourselves first because we have to survive long enough to have kids, all that stuff makes sense. But what I'm talking about is this wiring gone bad. Like you go to the degree of not only am I trying to survive, to propagate, I'm going to be the most comfortable, the most satisfied, the most full. I'm going to have the most stuff. It's me. And just to be real clear, that's who I've been talking about, is that person.
Yeah, right.
In these situations. So,
yeah. So as a fan, I just realized that I don't think I'm a selfish fan, because I was perfectly willing to take a year off and let other teams be in the playoffs this year.
So nice of you, John.
I know. And then next year we'll come back. But this year I thought maybe just let somebody else try it.
Thank you for giving the Seahawks. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm talking about the AFC.
Oh, well, I mean, that's you're giving them a shot by letting them play the Patriots, So.
Yeah. So no, but I see what you're saying with all of that. I think that for me, it's a little bit easier a fandom is so different that it pulls all kinds of people into it that join as a group.
Yeah.
And so you become like, your 12 is your kind of, for your fans, you're the 12th player on the field, so to speak. And like in Kansas City, it's the kingdom. So you're part of the kingdom, or you're part of 12, or, different fan groups have that. And it can be anybody. I mean, Chiefs Kingdom, we had a bank robber, right? What was his name, that dressed up like a wolf a couple years ago and was robbing banks to try to get to the playoff game down in Houston? You don't remember that?
I'm not familiar with that story.
Oh, wow. He drove to Oklahoma and robbed a bank, and then went on down and bought his ticket. And he robbed banks in several different. ESPN did a story about him. And
he got enough money to go to the playoffs?
He went to the playoffs, and then he was going to the Super Bowl. He bought front row seats. He bought season tickets. He just kept robbing banks to get more and more Chiefs to feed his Chiefs appetite. I guess.
That
Chiefaholic. Chiefaholic was his.
Okay. Yeah, that might be too far. That might
be too selfish.
That might be too selfish. Yes.
Robbing from people. I think in Oklahoma, it was like a teacher's pension plan or something he robbed. Yeah. I think that's
I don't love that.
Selfish.
Yeah, that's not good. But let's just kind of like try to wrap all this up, because I do feel like I don't know if I'm high energy today. I feel like I drug us all over the place here and said some crazy stuff about sports fans that I didn't. That's not what I meant. But
you have the perfect excuse.
I'm selfish?
Less than 24 hours ago, your
Yeah.
team punched a ticket to the Super
See,
Bowl.
not my team. Not my team. The Seahawks did. Yeah. But
No, but I'll
I
claim
know
I'm
I'm
kind
just
of a bandwagon fan this season.
so
So,
you're are you a 6? Like half a
that's a good
12?
question. Half of, but that
Uh
would put me as one of the 11. Maybe I'm a 13.
okay. Okay. But so talking about selfishness, I understand where it comes from. We have a we have one of our basic drives is to survive.
Hmm.
It makes sense that we put ourselves first. But so I'm tying together like 3 or 4 things that I heard you say, right? Because what I'm talking about is how do we put this into practice where we're not completely selfless, like I'm just going to not eat any pizza
Hmm.
because I'm going to let everybody else have it, but
Hmm.
I'm not going to eat the last piece of pizza without like, hey, everybody done or whatever.
Hmm.
Maybe not a
Yeah.
great analogy, but you see where I put everybody before me or I put myself before everybody. Everything in my life, I look for balance.
Hmm.
And so you also talked about, you're good enough, all of those things. So what do you think? How do we walk this line? Like, I don't want to lose compassion and empathy for others. I need that in my life, but I also don't want to get walked on everywhere I go and not being, taking care of myself.
Why wouldn't you want to get walked on by other people? Like, what does
Well,
that do to you? Not literally walked on.
yeah, no, well, no, sometimes, like, because 'cause I'm a big dude, I need somebody to walk on my back because they can't crack my
Yeah,
back.
that's
But
right.
but no, 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 like, you ask a good question, maybe the answer is in the question. When I say get walked on, um, yeah, what I don't know. I don't know why
No,
that's
so I
such
wasn't
a bad
asking.
thing.
I should have said this. A question to ask would be that because I hear that and so a lot of these things it's like yeah that's right, but then when you stop and think about it, like what would be the downside to getting walked on? That other
Yeah,
person then feels like they're better than you.
got nothing to do with me.
And then if it's that if somebody walks on me in the sense that they take resources from me or resources I was going to get and it's resources that would help my family or whatever, yeah, then that's not good. Like if somebody walks on you and takes a job from you and you don't get the promotion and now your family can't go on a trip, I'm just saying there's times for that. But if you are in town and you're getting gas at the station and somebody cuts in front of you at the pump and it's raining and you have to go
Yeah.
pump out in the rain or something and they say something to you and it's like okay, like getting walked on in that sense, does that really hurt me? And I think that this is where it's really difficult because when you talk about a group, which is what we're talking about, you can talk about a group, but everybody in that group is an individual person. So then it's
Right,
going to relate
right.
different to all of them. So when you say something like you're enough isn't a great saying, for some people it might be because they have absolutely zero self-worth and you're
Mhm.
trying to pump up that self-worth. So it's really difficult. So I want to be careful to say for most people, I think as a society, we would be better off if we would get back to saying, it's okay if I get walked on a little bit
Yeah.
and I'm going to let that happen. And I want to be more of a community. I want to be more engaged. I'm talking to myself right now because
Oh,
Casey and I have talked that I'm blaming COVID still, but
okay.
we and I work at home and with COVID we kind of shut the world out and it's been hard to get back out in the world, so to speak, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
I need more of a community connection with family, with friends, with people in the community. I need more of that and I need to strive for more of that. Um, so I think realizing that and then starting to tell yourself, I'm not enough. I do need friends and family and a support network. I do need other people. I do need a community around me. And maybe not just to survive if the goal is just to live, but if the goal is to thrive and to be happy and, those types of things, then I do need other people around me.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
then I need to worry about those other people. And I need to worry how they're feeling or what's happening with them and try to boost them if I can. And if I get stepped on, that's okay. Maybe that person didn't mean to step on me. Like, why am I going to judge them for that? I think there needs to be more of that in our society. I wish we could somehow shift the needle back over the other way to add a little bit more of that, to be less selfish, more compassionate. And it has to start with each of us, I guess. So I I need to be the first one to do better at that. I'm by no means have I got this figured out.
Well, obviously I don't either. I'm,
No, because you took the last piece of pizza and you're cold
yeah.
open.
Listen, I was hungry. I was more hungry than everybody else.
That's
So,
I just felt that I was. I just knew I was more hungry than everyone.
oh, John, thank you for all of that. Like I said, I know I was all over the board, but I was really interested in so many things you were saying. So I appreciate that.
I'm glad you told me about let me as the back end of let them, because I probably won't read the book, but I'm glad to hear that there's a
That's
second
my
step to
spin
that.
on it.
That's good.
To be clear, like again, you were saying, I know I just said we were done, but I'm not done yet. You said I'm going to get gas and somebody like whips in front of me. Okay, so the first part is like what they just did doesn't have anything to do with me. And I've had people when I say this before go, yeah, they cut you off. No, they didn't. And now you have to stand in the rain, right? All these things.
Mhm.
So here's the second part for me is then what the only thing I focus on is how am I going to respond to that?
Mhm. Yeah.
And
That's the key part.
yes, because what you have given me and hopefully all of us is each one of those little incidents.
Mhm.
The more of those that I respond the way I want to, I am, whether I want to or not, training my brain how I'm going to deal with these things.
Mhm.
And so when all that stuff happens and I just go, I guess it's got nothing to do with me. I'm going to stand in the rain or whatever I do. It's not me being angry at them or me making up a story about what they're doing so that I can have an emotional reaction to it. Any of those
Mhm.
things. Am I saying that happens all the time? No. I sometimes get annoyed at people and get, that stuff happens. But what I'm striving for
Mhm.
is to focus solely on what my response to these things is going to be. And if that response is in line with the person I'm trying to be over time, I'm going to train my brain. And then if I understand neuroscience correctly, then at some point that just starts happening automatically. That is my filter in which information in the world comes in.
Yeah, you're
And
absolutely right. Yeah.
I don't even have to try anymore, really. It just,
Right.
I'm going, nothing to do with me. I'm going to stand in the rain and pump gas.
Yeah, you're right. And if for somebody out there, if you say, okay, I'm going to try that, and then the first time somebody cuts in front of you, you get mad, honk your horn, or yell, and then you realize it, that's okay. I mean, that doesn't mean you have to give up on it. Say,
Right.
I mean, the first step is realizing it. That's an important first step, and go, oh yeah, I messed that one up. Next time, I'm going to try to do better, because you'll have plenty of opportunities. There will be people who cut you off the grocery store with their cart. They'll cut you off at a gas station in traffic. People won't text you back. There'll be a
Yeah.
lot of chances for you to put this into practice. So I think the more you try it, like you said, neuroscience says, the more that you try, and it's the actions, the more
Mm-hmm.
that you actually go through the actions. And it can also be, I'll just add this, it can also be mentally. So you can rehearse it in your mind, a lot of different scenarios of being at a gas station and how you're going to respond if somebody cuts you off, or if you're at dinner with somebody and somebody says something that might offend you in some way, how are you going to respond to that?
Yeah.
And so you can practice those things as well. And then that starts to rewire the filters. And then, the actual examples of it rewired as well.
Yeah. Don't try it once and then go, Sean's full of crap. I'm not going to do this
Yeah.
anymore. Don't do that. I mean, I am, but don't do that. So yeah, John, I'm going to let you, I've kept you way too long. I could just keep talking to you about this,
Well,
but
this was great. Yeah.
yeah, thank you very much for all of
I'm
that.
willing to give my time. I'm
Hey,
not
see, you're
selfish.
not selfish. See
See,
that? You're
Sean
proving
took the
it.
last piece of pizza, and I'm willing to give my time.
Yeah.
Look at the difference between
John
us.
is selfless. Sean
Yes.
is selfish. There you go.
The people know better than
No.
that. They can see through that.
Yeah, John, thank you for your time today, that information. This was a great back and forth between us. I
Good.
always look forward to doing these shows with you. So thank
Yeah,
you.
me too.
And then
Me
if
too.
you would, for listeners, could you remind me, you said TikTok, what are the platforms that
So
you're on?
I'm at brain_dude_, and it's TikTok,
TikTok.
Instagram, YouTube.
Are
I think are
you
the three.
YouTube Shorts?
Yes.
Okay.
But my YouTube channel is brain_dude_,
Dude
I believe.
underscore.
Or maybe YouTube, because I couldn't get the same. Maybe it's just brain_dude. But you'll find me. People can
Yeah.
find me.
Okay. So TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, go find John. He's been a little bit quiet on social media, but I feel like we're ramping back up, and it's always fun.
Starting again.
It's good content. So if you're looking for content outside of this show, go look John up. And then just for this show, like, follow, subscribe wherever you're listening. I haven't said it in a while, so I'll make my plea again. You know, if you like this, tell a friend, a coworker, a loved one. If you love this, tell two. So until next week, take care of yourself, and we will see you then.
Brain juice Sean.